In the last video, we spoke about the attributes of key positions, but that was just the start. Today, we'll discuss how team players should interact during the early stages of battle and the paths players should take. Welcome to Initial Routes. During the countdown, it's important to remember that every vehicle on the team has its role, and for each role, there are fitting routes and positions. It's easy to understand that heavily armored vehicles will most likely head for the solid cover in the town, mobile tanks to where they can maneuver, and the vehicles with high accuracy and low survivability will likely occupy the balconies and hills with concealment on the second line. This will help you identify where to play in order to maximize support from your allies. This initial choice and how players travel to their position define the chance of victory for the team in many ways. Let's take a look at classic initial routes for light tanks that can play the role of a scout. These tanks have an excellent combination of mobility, view range, and concealment. Their task is reconnaissance, spotting the enemies on their initial routes. The more vehicles that are spotted over long durations, the better it is for your team. It's easier to understand how to do this if you remember that players aim to reach key positions. This means you can predict where they will go and what route they will take. Light tanks have two popular tactical recon methods. The first is called active spotting. Light tanks move dynamically in aggressive positions, keeping targets spotted while avoiding enemy fire. The second method is passive scouting. This consists of occupying a concealed position, which allows you to monitor the enemy's movement. These locations can be found on the majority of maps. Find and remember them. The choice of recon method depends on the situation and the mobility of a vehicle. The higher the mobility of a light tank, the better it is for the active scouting. Anyway, it's beneficial for a light tank to spot the movement of vehicles that are slow and have poor concealment when moving. Experienced light tank commanders mark locations on the minimap to inform their team of where they are spotting. This allows artillery to pre-aim at the location in anticipation for the enemies. Tanks, such as heavies and mediums that are traveling to their position, can aim their barrel towards the same location in advance. Once the enemy is spotted, tanks on the move can stop shortly to fire at the enemy. Artillery should also be able to fire at the enemy, and due to its shell's arced trajectory, it can hit the opponents even after they are no longer in the line of fire of other allies. Sometimes the result can be impressive, especially if the allies act in unison and there are players on the enemy team that don't think about safe routes, don't use the terrain for cover, or don't avoid the view range of light tanks by traveling along the red line. This is a very useful tactical move. It can give a significant advantage to a team that makes use of it. Despite seeming pretty simple to do, there are many hidden details under the hood, and you should know about them. Even if an allied light tank did everything well and there's a chance to cause significant damage, don't stop to shoot for too long. It may lead to a situation where the enemies pass the dangerous area, take key positions first, and aim at the positions your team is still traveling to. They will have the right of the first shot, giving them a chance to equalize the number of team hit points. The right of the first shot refers to being able to surprise opponents traveling to predictable locations and firing upon them and leaving quickly so that they cannot return fire. There are three factors to the right of the first shot. The factor of speed, allowing you to take a key position and pre-aiming for the enemy before they arrive. Secondly, the factor of predictability, anticipating an opponent to go for a specific position and aiming for them in advance. Thirdly, the factor of surprise, firing from a concealed location at opponents unaware of your position and are either distracted or exposing weak spots. Using these factors to your advantage, you can cause damage and save your hit points. The enemy will definitely try to retaliate, but it will take them a lot of time. First, they need to realize who fired at them and from where. Then, turn their turret, stop, and aim. This should be enough time to avoid them by returning to cover. The slower your vehicle is, the easier it is to lose the right of the first shot, and your hit points as a result. If you do lose the right of the first shot, remember, don't become an easy target for the enemy. For example, tanks like the Mouse and the T110E3, which are extremely sluggish, don't have to stop at the start of the battle. Their main tasks are to move using safe routes, keep up with the allies, and take a position that will help hold the selected flank. In slow tanks, keep moving along safe initial routes to reach key positions and stay alive. The speed of making decisions is as important as the speed of your vehicle for increasing the chance of victory. That's why, when a teammate provides you with an assortment of spotted enemy vehicles, it's important to stay cool and select a target which will lead to the best result. If there's only one target, it's simple. Every shot is a chance to cause damage. There's no other option, so fire away. If there are several targets, evaluate their armor and fire at the one that is easier to penetrate. It might have thinner armor, or it might be exposing its sides. Evaluate the firepower of your targets. Tanks with auto-loaders or high damage per shot should be your priority. This will help decrease the cost of mistakes for the allied vehicles on the front line. Evaluate the general tactical danger of the target. For example, light tanks that play too aggressively on open maps and expose themselves should be sent back to the garage first. This will give your team more freedom for maneuvering during all battle stages. On closed maps, the danger of light tanks at the start of the battle is not that significant. Heavily armored vehicles, though, they run the show in this town. When you learn how to prioritize and damage targets quickly, you'll be able to proceed to the next level. Evaluate the danger of opponents to yourself personally. For example, if you're playing a heavy tank with poor gun depression and the enemy has a tank with a sturdy turret and good depression, you can assume that a skirmish on uneven terrain against this vehicle won't end in your favor. Eliminating this target before it takes a key position increases your chance to be among the top players by damage caused and will allow you to make a decisive contribution to the team's victory. If you think about everything we've discussed, you'll obtain one of the most important tanker's skills: the ability to analyze team setups and predict the course of a battle. This will help you define your role correctly, because it might differ from the role attributed to your tank in its description. For example, when there are no light tanks on the team, a medium tank with good speed characteristics can take on the role of a scout. And a heavy assault tank at the bottom of the list will be among the first to head to the garage if it tries to brawl against a vehicle 2 tiers higher. In situations like these, the role of a support vehicle will be more effective. You can let the higher tiered teammates go forward and play second fiddle, trying not to trade your hit points with the enemy's top tier vehicles. Or you can try to go to another flank and fight against vehicles of equal or lower tiers. To avoid getting into disadvantageous situations, try to evaluate the components of random battle tactics before the start of battle. Start with the simple ones: the key locations of the map, your place on the team list and your ability to play aggressively, the convenient positions for the different vehicle roles on both teams, the ability to crossfire and support each other. Then choose your position and the route you intend to take. When you've adjusted to this, try to gradually add one more point from the following list: the ability to spot and cause damage to vehicles on their initial routes, the dangers of being spotted by opponents and alternative safe initial routes to avoid detection, the speed of reaching positions and having the right of the first shot, the amount of options you have when coming into contact with opponents, and the ability of your vehicle to cause damage to enemies in a position and defending against return fire. Taking these things into consideration will lay the foundation of understanding the game, but of course, your prediction won't be 100% accurate. There are just too many unknown variables. But with time, you'll be able to achieve your goals easier. You will start to feel that you've become a stronger player. In the next video, we'll talk about ways to increase your mastery of World of Tanks. Stay tuned.